Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn Taisis Dibra Maschel, Amar Abaya, Hacha Be'ilana Emet Chulu. Let's begin by looking at the flowchart of the Gemara so we can see what Taisis is coming to explain. So the Gemara began by saying that it seems like we could conclude that the teaching of Rav Chisda, that in Rosh Hashanah, the Hanacha doesn't need to be an area that's 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim wide. It seems like we could conclude that that teaching only fits with Rebbe and it doesn't fit with the Rabbanon. And to this Abaya responded and he challenged and said that that's not necessarily the case. Rather, we could explain that the machlekes between Rebbe and the Rabbanon has nothing to do with the teaching of Rav Chisda, and the benefit of that is that we can now explain that Rav Chisda could fit with both Rebbe and the Rabbanon, and he's not limited to only fitting with Rebbe. So this is the part of the Gemara that Tosfos is coming to talk about and explain. And let's see the general outline of Tosfos. Abaya said we can explain that the argument between Rebbe and the Rabbanon has nothing to do with the teaching of Rav Chisda, and like we said, the benefit is that now Rav Chisda is not limited to only fitting with Rebbe, rather he can fit with both Rebbe and the Rabbanon. And there's one part of Tosfos which is a question, and that is, Tosfos will ask that it would seem preferable to say that Rav Chisda only fits with Rebbe than to say that that argument has nothing to do with his teaching. In general, it's true that we'd rather say that and explain that the Amara's understanding of the machlekes between the Tanaim has nothing to do with his teaching, and the benefit would be that now he can fit with both of them. However, Tosfos is going to ask that in our case specifically, it would seem actually preferable to say that he fits only with Rebbe than to say that he could fit with both. So let's see Tosfos now in the flowchart form. Abaya said we can explain that the argument between Rebbe and the Rabbanon has nothing to do with the teaching of Rav Chisda. So Tosfos asks a question. He says, "Teimalari, this is a wonder to the Ri. It's better to say that they are arguing about the point of Rav Chisda and that Rav Chisda holds like Rebbe. It's much better to say that in our case. And the reason is because to say that it has nothing to do with Rav Chisda makes it more of a question on Rav Chisda. It's a very slight problem, so to speak, if Rav Chisda only fits with Rebbe. It's not really a problem, it's just not ideal. We'd rather say he fits with both. However, in this case, it's much more of a question of Rav Chisda to say that he has nothing to do with them because there's a brisa that clearly doesn't fit with Rav Chisda. Generally, if all we have relating to Rav Chisda's teaching is an apparent machlekes about his teaching, and we could explain that they're arguing about something else entirely different, then we're going to say that Amira is of the opinion that the two Tanaim are arguing about something else. So this way the Amira could fit with both Tanaim, and he's not limited to fitting with only one Tana. However, in our case, it's different. And the reason is, because if we remove the machlokes of Rebbe and the Rabbanon from the whole discussion of Rav Chisda, what we're left with is a problem, and that is that there is another machlokes between two Tanaim, like we'll present in a moment, where both of them disagree with Rav Chisda. And that being the case, it's much more preferable to explain that Rav Chisda will justify his opinion, that he's an Amira arguing with two Tanaim, to say he'll justify and support his opinion by saying that he understands the machlekes between Rebbe and the Rabbanon to be in such a way that Rebbe is fitting with him. So in our case, where Rav Chisda is already, so to speak, in a problem, and that is that there are two Tanaim that argue with him, we would seek out a support for Rav Chisda by saying that Rav Chisda understood the machlekes between Rebbe and the Rabbanon, that they're arguing about his teaching, and his opinion fits with Rebbe. And what's this teaching? Where do we find that there are two Tanaim that argue with Rav Chisda? So Tosfos presents that, and it's in a purple arrow pointing upwards. It's not the question. The question is that we have two Tanaim that argue with him, so therefore it's better to fit him with Rebbe. Now, what are those two? Where does those two Tanaim argue? Is presented here because the Rabban and the Rab Meir argue when one threw an item above 10 tefachim and it landed in a minuscule hole. We presented this machlekes previously, so we said it fell into a hole that went through to the Rosh Hashanah. On the Rosh Hashanah side, it was 4 tefachim wide. On the Rosh Hashanah side, it was very small. It was a chor kolshu. The Rebbe and the Rabbanon argue in that case. Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanon argue in that case. Rabbi Meir says he's chayiv because we say choykik in lahashlim and it's resting on a place that's 4 by 4. Rabbi Meir says we say choykik in lahashlim, and as a result, it now landed in a chor, in a hole that's considered a chor Rosh Hashanah in the Rosh Hashanah, and it has the space area of 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim wide, so it has a nanacha on an area that's 4 by 4. And the Rabbanan say pater because we don't say choykik in lahashlim, and as a result, it's not on an area that's 4 by 4. But what we see here is that they both agree that the hanacha needs to be on an area that's 4 by 4. Their argument is, do we have that area because we say choykik in lahashlim, or do we not have that area because we don't say choykik in lahashlim? But they both are of the opinion that in the Rosh Hashanah we do need a hanacha on an area that's 4 by 4. So it comes out that they're arguing with Rav Chisda, who says that we don't need, in the Rosh Hashanah, we don't need the hanacha to be on an area that's 4 by 4. And that being the case, we would seek to explain that Rav Chisda understands the machlekes of Rebbe and the Rabbanon that Rebbe says we don't need a hanacha on an area that's 4x4 in the Rosh Hashanah, and that's the support for the opinion of Rav Chisda. And Tosfos answers, we can say that the reason Rav Chisda doesn't require an area of 4x4 in Rosh Hashanah is because we say Beisa Command Damalia. What Tosfos is saying now is that we could, based on this, we're going to explain that the opinion of Rav Chisda that we don't need in Rosh Hashanah that the hanacha should be on an area that's 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim wide. The explanation is because we always have 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim wide in the Rosh Hashanah, because we say basic command damaya damya. What that means is that even if the hanacha was on a very small area, like on a post that's not 4 by 4, it still is on an area that's 4 by 4, because we say basic command damaya. The house is full of items, and therefore it comes out that it is resting on the post, which is adjacent to a larger area, which does have 4 by 4 tefachim to it. So it comes out that Rav Chisda now is not arguing with Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan. They hold we need a hanacha in an area that's 4 by 4, and Rav Chisda also agrees. All Rav Chisda is saying is that we always have it in Rosh Hashanah because we say basic command damaya damya. And that being the case, Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan and Rav Chisda are all in agreement that in Rosh Hashanah we need an area of 4 by 4. And what we're left with now is, do we say that Rabbi and the Rabbanan are arguing about whether we say basic command damaya damya? That Rebbe says when it landed on an area kol shehu in Rosh Hashanah, he's chayiv, and the Rabbanan say potter. So it seems that Rebbe says chayiv because basic command demaya, so it's not an area of kol shehu. The Rabbanan say potter because it is an area that's a kol shehu, because we don't say basic command demaya damya. So if we have a choice of interpreting it that way, or saying that Rebbe and the Rabbanan are arguing about a branch that's in the Rosh Hashanah, it's a whole different case. We'd rather say it's a whole different case, and this way Rav Chisda could fit with both Rebbe and the Rabbanan. And Tosfos now completes a point that needs to be addressed, and that is, if Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan are saying that we need an area that's 4 by 4, and they're not arguing with Rav Chisda, then why don't they both say chayiv because basic command damya damya? And Tosfos explains, but a hole in the wall requires 4 by 4. In a house, we could say basic command damya damya. We say that the area adjacent to where it landed is full of items, and it comes out that it's now resting on an area that's 4 by 4. But we can't say that regarding the hanacha on a wall, because the hole in the wall is removed from the rest of the Rosh Hashanah. And basic command damya damya will not extend the size of the hole. The hole is looked upon as a separate reshus, and therefore it'll only have an area of 4 by 4 if we say chaykik and lahashlam, and if we don't, then we will not have an area that's 4 by 4. So it comes out that we're not going to see that Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan don't hold the basic command damaya. It could be they do hold the basic command damaya, and it's irrelevant in their machlekes since they're referring to a hole in the wall, and by a hole in the wall we cannot apply basic command damaya damya. So just to summarize Tosfos, the Gemara said that it's preferable to say that Rebbe and the Rabbanan have nothing to do with the machlekes of Rav Chisda. That way Rav Chisda could explain and hold that he fits with both opinions. And Tosfos asked that in this case it's actually a problem, it would seem to say that, because then Rav Chisda is left arguing with two Tanaim. And Tosfos explained he's not arguing with those Tanaim. He agrees we need a hanacha on an area that's 4 by 4. He's simply saying that we always have it because of basic command damaya, which doesn't apply in the conversation of Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan, because it's a hole in the wall where there we don't say basic command damaya. And therefore, if we have a choice to say that Rav Chisda fits only with Rebbe and not the Rabbanan, or to say that it has nothing to do with their machlekes, it's better to say it has nothing to do with their machlekes, and he could explain that he fits with both opinions.